Do you like tennis, but maybe you don't think you're quite good enough or athletic enough to keep up? Do you like ping pong, but you want just a little more exercise? Enter pickleball, which is a combination of those two sports with just a little badminton mixed in. And here's the beauty of pickleball. It is super easy to pick up and play, and it doesn't matter if you're competitive or you're there for a social activity. Heck, you can even sip a cocktail while you're playing. I know I have. And it's no wonder it is the fastest growing sport in the country. Let's take a look at those numbers. According to the Sports and Fitness Industry Association, nearly 5 million people have picked up a paddle since 2020. Participation has also doubled since 2014. That's good for a nearly 40% growth over the last 2 years. And it's not just one age demographic either. About 18% of players are over the age of 65. But on the flip side, a little over 20% are 17 years or younger. The CEO of USA Pickleball, Stu Upson, he does credit the pandemic a little bit for the jump in growth. It is, after all, a social distance friendly game that can be played outdoors, but its popularity spike goes far beyond that.
The sport is easy to play. Unlike golf or tennis, nothing to disparage those sports. They're great. I play them both. But in pickleball, if you have any athletic ability, hand-eye coordination, you can get out there and with an hour or so, you'll be decent. You won't embarrass yourself.
Right.
So you don't have to take weeks or months or years of lessons to be okay. So that's important. You can get out there and have fun. Again, you can set up a net and a court in your driveway if you want. So that easy to play aspect is really important to it. The second critical thing is that it's always been a very open and social kind of sport. People who play the game love it. They almost become addicted to it. It's almost part of their lifestyle. So they want more and more people to participate. So that if you can drop by the court and people invite you to play, whether you're a beginner or you're a 4.5 ranked player, it doesn't really matter.
And the rules aren't hard to learn either. Within minutes, you could be ready to take the court and ready to play. Of course, with its popularity booming, that also means that court access can be hard to come by sometimes. But thankfully, major investors are stepping up to build new courts. Health club Lifetime Fitness is throwing down $50 to $75 million to build new courts. Their CEO commenting, saying this: "In my 40 plus years doing sports fitness, I've seen all kinds of stuff come and go, get the momentum and then lose it. This sport, I don't see that happening. It's just easier and it's more broad. It brings people together and there's really no reason for people not to be able to do it."
It's great for smaller clubs and parks to do it, but when businesses get behind it and really invest, and places like Chicken and Pickle and there are others coming down the pike, they have the right vision, because it's not just pickleball. It's a great social experience. It's pretty good food too, and you can go have a great night and also play some pickleball. So it doesn't just have to be the hardcore tournament pickleball player. Our members tend to be the more competitive tournament players. That's the primary reason people want to become a member of USA Pickleball, to play in sanctioned tournaments and have rules and referees and all of that. But there are 4.8 million people who play the game. So we're trying to get those people to play more and play in leagues and join clubs and have more organized play. And places like Lifetime Fitness and Chicken and Pickle and others are a great avenue to do that, because it drives more people into the sport. I equate it very much to the way bowling is. Bowling is a great sport. A lot of people play just for fun. As you get higher up and become a pro and a real competitive player, it becomes very hard. But the core of the bowling industry, like the core of the pickleball industry, are those casual recreational players. We're going to play a few times a year and just have a great time and don't really care so much about a rating or an average or anything like that.
And I'm sure by this point you've got to be wondering, why is it called pickleball? Clearly, there's no actual pickles involved. That is in case you want to play with a pickle in a hand and a paddle in the other hand. But anyway, we go all the way back to 1965. A group of children west of Seattle were bored with their usual summertime activity, so their parents created a new game, now known as pickleball. One of the parents called it pickleball because the combination of different sports reminded me of the pickle boat in Crew, where oarsmen were chosen from the leftovers of the other boats. But according to another person, it was actually named pickleball because of a dog named Pickles that kept running off with the ball. Fittingly, though, now it is officially the sport of the state of Washington. But it wasn't until 2005, really not that long ago, when USA Pickleball was finally formed. 3 years later, an official rule book was then published, and now there's major tournaments like US Pickleball Open and organizations like the Pro Pickleball Association, which actually ranks players.
We talked a little bit about, how the sport is getting younger, and a key to that continuing is getting pickleball into schools and with phys ed teachers, and there's some great opportunities that we're doing, but lots of other groups as well. If you're getting it, we give grants of equipment and paddles to schools.
Awesome.
It is such an easy sport for the kids. The phys ed class, you put up a bunch of nets in the gym and the kids play, and it's easy for them to learn, which is important. So I think to drive the growth and for the growth to continue for the sport, you have to keep developing the kids. And there's still work to do there.
With more and more people ready to play, it seems like the sky is the limit for the sport, or maybe possibly one day we could see it in the Olympics.
There are certain sports that become popular and then just crash. They were fad sports. Pickleball is not going to be that way. I think at some point, now whether this is 5 years from now or 10 years from now, I think it will become a mainstream sport along the lines of tennis and golf. I think it will get there. As long as you get more places to play and more access to courts, which will happen. There are more manufacturers are getting into the game. The pro game is taking off with a couple of pro tours, and they're getting more exposure on television. So that's the future, to become a mainstream sport, not only in the U.S., but across the world. And I think at some point, and I think we're talking at least 12 years from now, it could be an Olympic sport. But it needs to be stronger internationally. Most of the play is still in North America, U.S. and Canada. Other countries are adopting the sport, but they're still relatively small. They're not capable of sending a team to a world competition or a world championship or anything like that. And that takes time to develop that international network of federations. And then you have to go through the process of being recognized by the IOC. Once you do that, then you can be considered for an Olympic Games spot, but even that is a long process and complicated. And
we're producing more plastic today than